have no real intro to this. This is Chris Costa, and we're going to talk about reinvention and recovery. So, Chris, if you wouldn't mind, first of all, thank you so much, of
My
course,
pleasure.
for coming back.
My
I
pleasure.
know you're in here doing some stuff. Would you share a little bit of your journey? How long has it been since we met you?
Sure, yeah. It's been a little over 5 years. February 2nd, 2012 is the day I walked in the doors of Palm Partners. I always talk about like the fear and the uncertainty and the anxiety and the angst of what was next.
Is that how you felt when you walked in?
Yeah, because you make this big decision. You finally realize, okay, my life has become unmanageable.
Is that what did you decide on your own, or did someone?
I decided on my own, and I think I was led down that road by the people that care about me most, most importantly my family, where they took what I'm assuming was a very hard stance in letting me reach the bottom that I needed to reach.
Is that what it took? Did they give you a bottom line? Like, okay, did they give you choices, or like was it like, hey, you're either going to treatment or something, or they just sit down with you and say, ow, we need to do something?
A little harsh. It was get out of the house.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was on my own for a bit, which it's pretty surprising how quick you'll find out how much you need a roof over your head.
Especially, was it up north too?
Yeah, it was up north, and
if it was February, it was in the winter then.
It was somewhat cold, I guess you could say. But yeah, I was left on my own, and I was left in a position where I really had to come to terms with the fact that I had a problem. And it became more and more apparent every day that it was a problem that I couldn't fix myself. You constantly, as an addict or an alcoholic, you're going day to day thinking, I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. But sure enough, that day comes when resources are pulled from you, or where the resources are dried up, where you have to do things to support your habit or your lifestyle, or to prevent yourself from feeling sick. And
without getting into detail, did you violate some of your values?
Of course. Of course, and those are all things that I'm pretty open about. Those are things that led to where I am today. I feel pretty strongly about that. But yeah, absolutely, I had to do things that I'm not proud of. I had to do things that I've had to make amends for. I've had to do things that certainly wouldn't hold up to the values that I have today, or the values that I even had then.
Well, I'm sure while that was happening, you knew at the time it was against your core.
Absolutely.
And I think some people, my experience has been anyways, that some people may have looked at what you did and be thinking like, how could you do that? Or even how could you do it to me? Like, even think that you did something, like took it personally, and you knew at the time that it was not who you were at your core, which is what adds to the guilt and the shame, because it's not who you are.
No, it does. It adds to the guilt and the shame. And we've talked about my background and where I came from, and waking up on a couch of somebody you don't even know, and seeing yourself in the mirror and kind of having the disappointment of what's happened over the past several years hit you in what they call a moment of clarity. It's heavy, because you feel like you've betrayed not only yourself but everybody that cares about you, and it's hard to understand why you've done what you've done. And it's hard for, like you said, for them to understand why you've done what you've done.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, and one of the things that I learned here and in the program and at Palm Partners and in general throughout my recovery process is, we're not bad people trying to learn how to be good. We're sick trying to learn how to be well.
Yeah, you're still awesome people.
Yeah, and it's a process in educating the people around you, or making amends with the people that you may have hurt or burned bridges with.
Right.
And not all of those bridges are going to be salvageable. But
yeah, is what's most important is how you're feeling.
Exactly.
And all that. We were blessed to also work with your family, and they're amazing, and we still recall and use some of the metaphors we got just from because your entire family is brilliant, and the different stages of conversations that we had were such a gift. To this day, we still cherish that moment that we had with them.
No, of course, and I think one of the biggest pieces and some of the most valuable things that I myself took away from Palm Partners, but also my family, is the fact that, there is a program not only for me as the addict or the alcoholic, but my family and the people around me needed help just as much as I did. They may not have been running around and doing what I had to do to not be sick, but at the same time, they're sick in their own way in terms of enabling and not understanding the dynamic of what's happening, and a lot of the damage that comes out of the life of alcoholism and addiction.
Well, and also did their life suffer because they were so concerned with like how to help you and going through all of that they sacrificed some of their life.
Sure.
And we all make sacrifices. It's one thing to go, I'm sacrificing some time to take my kid to the sports game. It's another thing to go, I gotta, freak
Bail
out.
my son out of jail.
Right, things of that nature. Which
or find my, my son or my daughter on the floor. All of these things that happen to a lot of us in the rooms or in the program or in recovery. And those are things that I think there's so much value in a place like Palm Partners, where people like you and Heidi who really hone in on the family dynamic,
right. Well,
and rebuilding relationships and the process at which to look at a relationship and understand what is really there.
Right, and to create a space for healing.
Exactly.
Right, and I know obviously you shared a little bit. Sounds like there's been a lot of healing in your journey of this. So it's been 5 years, and we're so proud of it. Like these are the moments like this. Like you're the juice that we get, like, oh my gosh, you're doing so amazing, and we know, like, it feels like, not that we had anything to do with it, because we didn't, you did all the work, but to just be part of it is such a blessing. In the journey, I'm sure there were some ups and downs and so forth. How did you keep the momentum going when things got a little interesting? Because it's not all rainbows and marshmallows, right?
No, it's not. And I think one of the biggest things that I try to come back to is the fact that, and this, I think it's said by the great Tony Robbins quite a bit, is don't let life happen to you, let it happen for you.
Right.
Right. So finding the ability to be grateful on a daily basis, it's a challenge. Mm-hmm. But I think us as addicts or alcoholics or people that struggle with certain issues, we've been through a lot. We've been through things that not the normal population, the average Joe,
hey, what's normal?
has been through, and that gives us some perspective. That gives us the ability to really appreciate some of the little nuances in life that we might not appreciate. So, yeah, there's ups and downs, and there's roadblocks, and there's issues, and there's problems that come up on a daily basis. Just like in everyday life. But I think one of the most valuable and one of the other most valuable pieces of a program like this is you learn the tools to be able to cope with issues, learn how to react in an appropriate way, learn how to face issues head on as opposed to running from them, which is something that we all too often do or have done. And when you run into something like that, it's important for me, at least personally, to stay grounded, stay grateful, let life happen for me and not to me. And if I keep that perspective on a daily basis, it's easy to kind of overcome some of those mini road bumps in the road moving forward.
For sure. Did you, when you left treatment, did you do halfway? Did you do like a 90-90? Did you, what was your strategy, and what did you keep? What did you throw away? What did you add?
Sure, yeah. I came to Florida fully under the impression I would be here for 30 days and I'd be going back home.
Because insurance said so?
Yeah, insurance said so, or I'd be going back home and I'd be back out with my friends and I'd get over this this issue that I have. Mm-hmm. But
You'd be fixed?
Be fixed,
yeah.
Right. But one of the things that I kept hearing was to take suggestions, and it kept being suggested to me
that you take suggestions.
That I take suggestions and that I maybe consider staying for an additional 30 days. Mm-hmm. And then from there it was stay in Florida long term after 60 days. Mm-hmm. So my plan went from 30 days to 60 days to 8 months to halfway house. So my journey went 60 days at Palm Partners, or in treatment, and then 6 months at a halfway house, at a 6-month commitment.
You committed right off the bat?
Committed right off the bat. I had a group of guys that I was in here with that I really connected with, and a few of us went to the same sober living facility. It was required that we get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a car. Didn't have money being sent to me. Not that I didn't have it available to me. It was just more of a principle thing of me learning how to be an adult again, learning how to be a man. I walked or took the bus to work every single day. I paid
For
my
how
own
long?
rent. 8 months.
Oh, you did it for the full time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Never had a car down here. Never had money being sent. It was.
So are you saying that it's possible to survive and even thrive without a car and someone giving you money?
Of course, and that's one of the amazing things of what we're doing here, right?
Right.
We're so reliant on outside sources, whether they're family members or stealing from people, or we're used to getting what we need, however we need to get it. But when you flip that on its head and you learn how to provide for yourself and to be able to live your life on a daily basis without having to reach into outside sources.
And do you look back when you use that philosophy of life happening for you, not to you? Do you look back at some of the opportunities you had with having to take the bus, having to humble yourself to some extent, with the reinvention that you had to undergo, which we all do, that you look back now as those gifts, as leverage, as fuel to go, oh my gosh, what else is possible? I can't believe that I thought taking a bus would have been an inconvenience, and now I'm like, that's nothing compared to some of the life challenges I'm overcoming. Like buying a house, you just share. There's a little bit different than taking a bus.
Yeah,
But if you can't take a bus, if that's too much of a hardship, the hoops you got to go through to get a house, we're going to have some challenges, I would assume.
Right, and it goes back to, you hit the nail on the head. It humbled me, and getting a sense of humbleness and really humbling myself, a sense of humbleness, a sense of humility.
I got what you meant.
Didn't sound right.
I was the bestest in my English class too.
Samesies.
So yeah.
But that really gave me a sense of being grounded and humbled me right off the bat to the point where, I was walking to work in middle of August in South Florida, and I was hitching rides everywhere I had to go to a meeting, and I had to ask for rides and ask for help and ask, what to do next. And it all led into, taking suggestions and asking, where am I supposed to go and what am I supposed to do? Because everywhere I looked, there were people that had more time than me. There were people that had more experience than me, and there were people that had been through this. And who am I to have the answers?
Well, and with that also, it's somewhat rhetorical, and I know that this is a thing that, I know you know this, but I wonder if there's a way you could frame it to maybe help other people, is how important is it of the company that you're keeping? Like you shared a few of your guys came back. Like, have you been consciously choosing your environment?
Yeah, sure. So I think it'll go back to kind of my path is that, I was here for 8 months, and after 8 months and working the 12 steps and working those thoroughly with a sponsor and building up a tool set, and I refer to it as a tool set, that I felt equipped me to be ready to return to what was home for me, which is Boston. I made sure that the people I was returning to, the group of friends that I was returning to, and the people in my life that I knew I would be spending all of my time with understood what I was going through and understood what had taken place in my life.
Right. Did you have to do any friend house cleaning? Were there people you came back and had to say, look, sorry, how did you do that? If there was some friends that maybe you were running with.
People that I was running with before coming to Florida, you really have to set boundaries. And, offer yourself as a stem of support. I'm here if you ever need to talk. But to be honest, I can't be around that right now in my life.
How was that received?
It was received quite well, to be honest. I think people admired the fact that I decided to make a change in my life. Even if they hadn't made one yet.
Okay.
They respected it.
Were you concerned that they wouldn't receive it that way?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. And that was something that I worked on with, not only my sponsor, but, other people like my counselor or therapist that I had from Palm Partners. But the process in itself was one that kind of took its own course. I made sure that the people around me were not only supportive of my sobriety, understood my sobriety, and understood what it was that got me to where I was today. And it's, just being conscious of your surroundings. So, it goes back to when I was in treatment. I found a group of guys that I knew were serious about getting sober, that I related to, but at the same token, we're working a program and we're serious about making changes in their lives. And it's pretty visible when you see it.
Right. Are you still? What do you do now for maintenance of your program?
Sure. Yeah. I work a program still. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that is something that I will always be grateful for. The rooms of AA are something that really gave me a sense of community, put me in a place where I had people like me that I could go to and relate to and bring problems to and issues to.
Do you still go?
I still go. I am heavy into the gym. I've got my own daily routine that I map out. I've got my work, I've got my family, my friends, I've got a girlfriend, I've got a life. They say it all the time, and it may be cliche, but I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I've got.
So this always comes up. A cliche is a cliche because it's true.
It is. It is. It's true. That's what I have. I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. I travel the world. I travel the country. I meet new people.
It's great. So when you travel, do you go to meetings in towns or in cities or in countries that you've never been?
Sure. And that's the beauty of the fellowship is, we are all over the world in every single city. I've had people at work come up to me saying, "Are you a friend of Bill W?" And it's cool to see how many people are, can come out of the woodwork to rally around you, and to realize that we're all over the place, and we're successful, and we're doing amazing things, and I've got bosses, and I've got people that are running big companies, and people that report to me, or people that I report to in the work world, that are all part of a program, and it's incredible because you think back to it, and all these tools that we've built in becoming sober, and working a program, and taking back control of our life, are tools that are incredibly relevant in a workplace or in real life.
Yeah.
And, it works. They say keep coming back. It works.
Yeah.
It works. It works.
So what do you do if you can't get to a meeting? What's your strategy when something's not available, something's not working?
Sure. Phone calls are huge for me. I've got plenty of people that I can reach out to on a daily basis at a moment's notice. And that's not just me in a unique sense. That's available to all of us, to anybody. Anybody will offer up their phone number and be available to talk at any point in time. Meditation's been huge for me. Meditation's something that I lean on as a sense of not only comfort but solace, and helps me kind of reset my system and clear out. But yeah, support system's huge, and whether it's another member of Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous or Gamblers Anonymous, having a support system, you can bring a meeting wherever you want with you, whether it's in the car or it's on the plane, or everybody's within a fingertips reach. So that's kind of the beauty of the whole program.
Right on. As part of your reinvention, I know when we first met 5 years ago, baseball was a large part of your life. How did you make that switch to sort of create this new Chris?
Right. Well, yeah. I was a college baseball player, played baseball my whole life, as well as hockey and football, and I think.
Semi-pro is where you were going with baseball?
So I played Division I college baseball with some pretty serious opportunity to move beyond that. My path took a right turn somewhere right in there in the college space. But yeah, I've leveraged kind of that drive,
Mm-hmm.
and the competitiveness, and I guess you could say I have an insatiable hunger to beat the people around me at no matter what I'm doing. And I've translated that into the work, so I'm in sales, and I look at sales as a highly competitive space. And I always want to be, the top guy on whatever team I'm on.
Yeah.
And I think it's boded well for me as a professional, as a young professional, to be able to use the tools that I learned prior to being sober, the tools that I learned in becoming sober, and the tools that I've learned in my recovery process and a life of sobriety, to be successful in not only work but in life.
Beautiful, because I guess that leads me to a little bit of what hopefully, for whatever reason it's stuck through, whatever conversations, to whether it would be conscious or other than conscious awareness, that all the skill sets that you have, you never lose, even though you're not playing baseball or football or whatever. And dare I say, you were not a baseball player. You were Chris, who happened to play baseball. And I might say as well that, I would never call you an addict. I'd call you an awesome dude who struggled with addiction and now lives in recovery.
Right.
And the gift that you're sharing right now is this. I mean, I'll probably sound like a broken record at some point. Did you hide your addiction when you were?
When I was using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone were to hide their addiction and then move into recovery, and they hide their recovery, what's changed?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And as we all, or most of us, if not all of us, experience in our addiction, we're all a ticking time bomb. And if you hide your recovery in the sense of hiding your addiction, I think the same goes. And my recovery is one thing that I'm never shy about. There are some people that are reserved about their recovery, but they're not that I know that aren't hiding it.
There's difference between hiding it and being reserved. And I'm not suggesting people
should
be walking around going like, "Hey," it's
right.
Like, I guess there's some people, if we go out to dinner, there's some people who, if someone, the waiter comes over and is like, would you like something to drink? And they're like, oh, I'm an addict, I can't have it. Well, that's one way to do it, right? Or you could just go, I don't drink. Or not order a drink. You don't have to say anything. You just order whatever and say nothing. Because the truth is, most people aren't even going to notice. And the people, if you're hanging out with somebody and like, hey, dude, why aren't you drinking? If they don't know, because it's just a connection for them, just go, oh, I don't drink. If they have a problem with that, it's probably not a healthy person to be around in the first place.
So that was one of my biggest, I talked about walking in the doors of Palm Partners. One of my biggest concerns and fears was, what am I going to do with my life? How is my life going to change? Now I'm going into recovery. Am I going to be sober?
And you were, how old were you?
How am I going to tell people? I was 23 years old. And how do I live my life? Am I going to be ashamed? Am I ashamed of that? So what I will say from my experience over 5 years is that there has not been a day where my recovery has gotten in the way of me personally, professionally. It has not embarrassed me. If anything, it's proven to be a sense of respect. It's garnered respect around everybody that I know. People look up to me for the fact that I've made these changes in my life and I live my life the way that I do. We were talking earlier. I'm traveling all the time, and I'm lucky enough to be able to go on vacations with friends and to travel the world and do all these great things. And people always look at me and they say, I don't know how you do it. It's really impressive, and I've gotten that 100 times in terms of being able to go in these places and have the tools and built up within me where I can go and enjoy myself in Mexico or in the Virgin Islands or in the Caribbean, and enjoy myself without having to lean on a substance or to have to go.
As a matter of fact, knowing what you know now, I'm going to guess that you would probably realize it wouldn't be sustainable. You wouldn't be able to do it with all of that, if that was your lifestyle, you might be locked up in a prison in Mexico because who knows?
That's the ironic part, right? It's there's no way my life would be anything that it is if I were not living that way.
Right.
And that's just who we are. It's I like to think of it, and I always talk about it, and it says it in the book that we have an allergy, and we're allergic to essentially what makes us feel good from a substance standpoint. And
yet, have you found other things that help you feel good?
Exactly, and that transition has been one that's been more rewarding than anything that I ever thought I needed. But no, I mean that's really the crux of it. Is my life today, and I truly believe this, and I say it all the time, is my life today is not even close. My life is not even close to what it ever would have been, without having to go through what I've been through and going through the recovery process. I never would be the person that I am today without having to experience what I've experienced and to do the work that I've had to do to get to where I am today.
Awesome. So, what is your vision for the future? How do you see Chris growing? What's your next 5-10 years? What's like your passion? Anything new adventures you would like to experience?
Yeah. I mean, from a personal and I guess you could say business standpoint, I've really started to gain an interest in real estate. And I put myself in a position where I'm starting to look at getting involved in real estate and using that as a means to launch a secondary career, I guess you could say. But personally, I just love to travel. I love to surf. I love to snowboard. I want to get out west more and really
where you can do both in the same
both
day.
Exactly. So yeah, my goal I think is to head out west. Try it out there for a little bit. Get some surfing in, some snowboarding, have a chance to work, do a little bit of golfing. Just seems like the right spot for me.
Right on. Well, I shared that one of our visions for doing this thing moving down is like when you just shared that, like I would have asked you this earlier, and as soon as you said like golfing, we would know this going into it. The next thing would be us on a golf course, finishing this conversation, or surfing. Well, that would be difficult, but
you're not much of a surfer.
No.
The electronics.
Yeah, that would be a little challenging. But the snowboarding maybe not so difficult. Going up on the lift and having. I mean, I just think that would be a fun way to do it.
Cap it out.
Yeah, and just kind of go like make this more entertaining because. As entertaining as you are and as awkward as I am, just just these two cameras may not be as fun as something.
Say the word and I'll meet you there.
Yeah, I plan on it because did you do did we have this set up when you left? Did you do
I did.
Testimonial?
Did
we ever post it?
I don't know, but one thing I've been dying to find is like my pictures from intake and then whatever testimonials I've given, because I think it would be really cool.
So, the date you came in, so we could probably go back and find the pictures somewhere.
Yeah, I think I can. I reached out to a couple of my friends who I know are working with Palm Partners, which is another amazing part of this whole place is that so many of us we come through here and then we realize this is what we want to do.
Right. That's what we share. We tell everyone we don't want you back as clients, but if you want to come back and help. Serve, like, please, you're the best people to work here, someone who's been through the program, because we do things a little differently.
Well, the whole program, I mean, it's...
And, of course, obviously helping out if you're working anywhere, of course, so, yeah.
Right, but, being a client here, and I heard this yesterday when we were speaking with some of the graduates, there is so much support in terms of people that have experience in recovery in every single role within the program, whether that's people working on the staff at the residence, people working in the detox center, people working upstairs in admissions, at the front desk. Everybody is a shoulder that you can lean on that has maybe some different perspective. So I think it's a really powerful place in terms of you can really get a lot of insight from a lot of different people who've experienced it in a number of different ways, who maybe have a story that relates to yours. Or you might find a story that relates to yours. So it's another really cool part of this whole place at Palm Partners is the fact that everybody it's to some extent is rooted in recovery.
Well, at the very least, if they haven't been touched by it or live it. I think to work in this industry, and this goes to anybody working in the recovery industry, like you really have to have a huge heart. Like there's got to be something in there that we may not show up the best, and we're human, but at our core, man, if you're working in this industry, like you really care.
Yeah.
Like you really care about people, and it's the toughest thing because I'll be honest with you, coming from the personal development world, working with Tony, working with all of that, we didn't have like people die when they didn't follow through on their plan.
It's heavy.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. Like this is like the most challenging thing is to lovingly detach, right? Because we can't control what's going to happen. I'm sure you've lost some friends, and even when you saw the writing on the wall and you're like, oh my gosh, like can I help you? Can do this? Go to a meeting. Let me get you to detox or whatever. And people like you can't control people, and if someone relapses and their recovery plan, if they're addicted, they're struggling with addiction with Twinkies, if they relapse, they might get a pimple.
Right. Gain a couple pounds.
Yeah, and it like not to be glib, but it's really different when people can do the same relapse because it's all in here anyway, right? It's not about the drugs. It's about the behavior. It's about the new patterns. It's about creating your new rituals to create new results.
Reinventing yourself.
It's all about reinvention, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. We could just drop a mic right there on that one. So thank you so much. We'll look into those that stuff, and hopefully maybe with this, we're going to create a bunch of little vignettes. We'll even maybe be able to throw in some of those before and afters. And please, if you ever want to visit or come back or do any more follow-ups, or if there's any way we could support you, please let us know. It's
been a tremendous pleasure having a chance to come back and not only see the program evolve and grow, but see where it all started for me, and to see, to get that sense of, okay, this is where I was. And hopefully by being here and having a chance to speak with some of the clients, I've given them a sense of, where they can be, where they will be, or, what that path might look like.
Here's what's so crazy. This is what, like, some people will look at, like, using, let's take drugs out of the equation, like George Burns, like, smoked cigars till he was 100. And people would be like, oh my gosh, I can smoke. He smoked till he was 100. I could smoke, right? But then they see someone like you, and they may go, oh no, not for me. I don't, right? And for someone like that, what advice would you have of what's possible?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a template of what you need to be or what you're supposed to be. I've got friends that have well over the amount of sobriety that I do that are in a lot of ways more successful than I am in life, that come from 100 different backgrounds. Musicians, or people that are in sales, or people that are running their own startup businesses, or people that are in the service industry, or that are starting restaurants now that when they were getting sober started as a waiter or a waitress.
Now they own them.
And now they're owning their own restaurants. So when you put a plan of action to action, and you start to work a program, and you start to see the actual miracles that happen in your day, and they're actually miracles, they happen. It's not to sound corny or cheesy, but I truly, when things were happening in my life after kind of taking on this journey, it was miraculous, the changes that were happening, the things that would fall into place, and how things would kind of take their own, I guess you could say, shape. And that's going to be different for everyone.
Right.
So, I don't walk in the room and expect people to look at me and relate and say, oh, I really want to, be successful in sales, or I really want to, go surf in California, or all of that. It's just more to show that the program works. And it can work in whatever way you want it to work.
Because it's all subjective.
It's all subjective.
So if all you're really doing is exposing possibility, and that you transmute that into probability by taking action, by having a vision, having a plan, and then implementing it.
And when I say the program works, I'm not saying a specific program. It's putting a plan of action in place
Right, 'cause
of tools and things that you can use to better yourself.
and you've already shared that the 12-step program is one of that you do implement, but it's not the only one that
No,
you
God,
implement. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, you have multiple ways of getting that workout.
Picking the right machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what if all you do is your upper body?
If all you're doing is bench pressing, then you're going to end up with a huge chest and tiny legs, and then
Right.
you're not going to be able to get up the stairs. But if you pick the right tools and you pick the right methods, and it's not even the right ones, you pick the ones that you're
That work for
comfortable
you.
with, that work for you.
Yeah.
That's progress.
Yeah. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for allowing us. Again, it is a privilege and honor to be part of that, and also the gift of working with your family and stuff.
Sure.
I could speak for Heidi and I that makes our day. Like that is what keeps us going and all of that. So thank you for allowing us.
And we're super grateful as a family. I'm super grateful as a person, but I'm not by any means some miracle story. There's plenty of versions of me, of people that are making it and doing it and have well over the amount of sobriety that I have.
Well, and the more we could hit that tipping point and expose it and make recovery cool.
Yeah.
Let's make recovery great again.
Let's do it.
Or ever.
Listen, I'm all for that. I think that's the next campaign. I
Right.
think that's what we got to be doing. So there's so many people out there doing what I'm doing and then some. So it works, and whatever it is, you put it to action, and it'll make a difference in your life beyond your wildest dreams.
Right on. Let's end with a cliche. All right. So we love you for who you are and who you aren't. And thanks again, brother. And,
Thank you.
Really
So
appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, appreciate it.
Right on.